Kia ora, welcome. And I'd like to introduce you guys to Nico Fournier, who's with us here. Nico is a volcanologist, and he's been monitoring volcanoes for pretty much most of his life, I would say. Yep, and yeah, we're really happy to have him with us today. He's going to tell us a bit about what he does with his everyday job and what you guys need to know about monitoring volcanoes. Welcome.
Kia ora, thank you for that. Kia ora everyone. So today we are on Mount Ruapehu, which is one of New Zealand's most active volcanoes. And as all the active volcanoes in New Zealand, we monitor them. And monitoring a volcano is very much like monitoring a patient, like to want to know whether there are symptoms that might indicate that the patient is a little bit sick. So for volcanoes, this is exactly what we do. We look at a range of symptoms that might indicate that the volcano is a bit more active through times. One of the symptoms we look at, for instance, is whether or not there are any earthquakes, and what types of earthquakes. How often do we have those earthquakes? How big do they get? And depending on that, where they are located and how they change through time. So that's one of the symptoms we monitor on the volcanoes, and we do that through seismometers, which are instruments we put on the ground, and they are very much the same one that we use for standard earthquakes. Other types of symptoms we look at are typically the gas coming out of the mountain, and we measure the amount of gas coming out, we measure the composition and the changes in composition of the gas coming out. And what this is telling us, it's telling us very often about the processes happening underground, because most of the time we can't see anything. Everything is happening underground. But by looking at the changes in the amount of gas coming out, for instance, we can tell whether or not there is magma trying to make its way up to the surface that we might not be able to detect otherwise. Other kind of symptoms we look at, typically ground deformation. So this is how the volcano may bulge slightly when magma is trying to push its way up. So what will happen underground is you would start to have a little bit of pressure, and then that will induce some slight bulging at the surface of the volcano. Not something that you would be able to see normally. It would probably be something that would be quite subtle, maybe millimeters, centimeters, but those are the kind of things that we can monitor with instruments on the ground, or also through satellite imagery and through time. So long story short, looking at a volcano and monitoring a volcano is very much how you would look at a patient. You look at it from different angles. You've got different doctors, different scientists looking at different types of symptoms. We've got specialists in earthquakes. We've got some gas specialists. We've got as well some specialists in ground deformation. And we also have people who look at how we best communicate around that, because monitoring volcanoes and making a diagnostic on the volcano is just really the first step. The next step, once we've got an idea about it, is really to say, hey, the volcano is a bit restless at the moment. How do we tell the public, and how do we tell the wider organizations and the governments? So we need to make sure that whatever message we try and put forward is actually is clear and is well understood by everyone. So this is where we've got some social scientists coming into play to help us do a good job. So this is, in a nutshell, how we do monitor volcanoes here in New Zealand, but pretty much around the world.
Awesome, Nico. That was great. Thanks.